I buried my own brother to save my father's ass. And the son of a bitch still had the balls to parade his shiny new family around like I was yesterday's trash. That day at the Arlington Cemetery, with the bugle wailing taps over Jake's flag-draped coffin, Dad leaned into the microphone at the reception and cracked. Sophia's always been the family screw-up. Hell, if she'd listened to me, Jake might still be breathing. The crowd gasped, but I just stood there, fists clenched in my dress blues, tasting blood from biting my tongue so hard it split. And then, as if the universe had a sick sense of humor, his precious stepdaughter, barely 16, all wide-eyed innocence and academy polish, locked eyes with my silver star pinned to my chest and threw up the sharpest salute I'd ever seen. Right there in front of God, ghosts, and 100 stunned veterans. It started 12 years ago, back when I was 22 and fresh out of West Point, cocky as hell with a commission in my pocket and dreams of leading Rangers through the Hindu Kush. Dad was already a big shot then, Colonel Harlan Hawk Whitaker, the kind of army lifer who schmoozed generals at the officers' club and had his name etched on half the plaques at Fort Bragg. Mom had died giving birth to Jake, leaving me to raise him while Dad chased promotions and mistresses. I didn't mind, hell, I thrived on it. Diaper changes by day, PT runs by dawn. By 18, I was captaining the girls' lacrosse team and tutoring Jake through his ADD-fueled meltdowns. Dad called me his little soldier, but it was always laced with that edge. Like he resented me for being the one who stuck around. The betrayal hit like a roadside IED on a dusty convoy route in Kandahar. It was 2013, my first deployment with the 82nd Airborne. We'd been tasked with securing a village elder's compound, standard hearts and minds op. Hand out MREs. Shake hands. Go home. But intel was garbage. Turns out the elder was Taliban sympathetic, and his son had rigged the place with enough C4 to level a city block. My platoon got pinned down in the courtyard, RPGs whistling past like angry hornets. I called in the airstrike 2 Apaches, Hellfire missiles locked and loaded. Cleared it up the chain. Or so I thought. The birds came in hot, vaporized the compound, and dusted 20 hostiles. Clean kill. Right? Except collateral, 3 kids, a goat herder, and, worst of all, the elder's teenage daughter. Shredded like confetti in the blast. Back at Bagram. The shitstorm brewed.
Jag investigatorsvärmed.
Photos of the girls' mangled bodies splashed across encrypted briefs. Reckless endangerment, they called it. Violation of ROE. I was staring at a court-martial. Dishonorable discharge. Maybe Leavenworth. That's when Dad's voice crackled over the sat phone from the Pentagon. Soft. You listen to me. I pulled strings on that up, rerouted the intel through my old CO to fast-track your green light. But if this blows back, it'll take me down too. Family first.
Kid.
You take the heat. I'll make it right. Family first. The words burned like napalm in my gut. Jake was just 10, already acting out shoplifting candy bars, skipping school. Mom's ghost hung over us like Virginia humidity. And Dad? He was one bad fitness report from early retirement, his golden boy image cracking. I thought of Jake's gap-toothed grin, the way he'd cling to my bootlaces during Dad's absences. So, I did it. Signed the statement. Lieutenant Whitaker assumes full responsibility. Airstrike authorized solely at my discretion. No mention of Dad's meddling. No whisper of the forged timestamps in the log. The Army slapped my wrist, demotion to captain, 6 months desk duty in Kuwait, and a classified slap on the record. Dad got a quiet promotion to bird colonel. Posted to NATO HQ in Brussels. I swallowed the lie like bitter PT pills, telling myself it was temporary. Jake needed stability. I could rebuild my career. But Dad? He weaponized that debt. Every promotion board, every choice assignment, he'd dangle it like a carrot laced with arsenic. Remember what I did for you.
Soft.
Don't make me regret it. And I didn't. Climbed back to Major by 2018, leading PSYOPs teams in Syria, extracting assets from ISIS hellholes. Jake grew up idolizing me, sent me care packages of Twinkies and mixtapes, called me his superhero sis.
Dad.
Though, he faded into the background, a ghost in group chats, until the divorce papers hit. It was 2020. Pandemic lockdown turning Bragg into a ghost town. Dad's marriage to Elena, some Euro trash he'd shacked up with in Brussels, imploded spectacularly. She was a Belgian translator, all curves and cunning, 15 years his junior. They had a daughter, Lila, born stateside when Dad rotated back east. I met them once. At an awkward Christmas dinner in Alexandria, Elena chain-smoking Merlots, Lila a toddler with Dad's ice blue eyes, and him beaming like he'd reinvented fatherhood. Sophia's the black sheep, he'd joked to his new cronies at the VFW hall, nursing a Bud Light. Army chewed her up, too headstrong. Like her mother. I laughed it off, focused on Jake's senior year, his acceptance to UNC on a partial ride. But the barb stuck, festering like an untreated shrapnel wound. Then Jake shipped out. 2022. Fresh-faced private in my old unit, chasing the family legacy. I was overseas again, Ukraine advisory role, training Azov vets on drone strikes. Dad pulled strings to get Jake fast-tracked into a combat arms slot, bragging to anyone who'd listen. My boys got the Whitaker fire. Fire that burned him up 3 months later. Convoy ambush outside Kherson, Russian Wagner mercs with Iranian drones. Jake's Humvee took the hit. He bled out in a Ukrainian field medic's arms, whispering my name into a helmet mic. The official report, Kia due to enemy action. But I knew better. I'd seen the after-action. Jake's squad leader, a green lieutenant Dad had vouched for, ignored a route change I'd radioed in from Theater HQ. Same arrogance. Same shortcuts. Dad's fingerprints all over it. The funeral was a circus. Arlington's amphitheater packed with brass and blue hairs, flags snapping in the October wind. I flew in from Ramstein, still dusty from the step. My major's leaves polished, but my soul in tatters. Dad commandeered the eulogy, turning it into his TED Talk on sacrifice. Jake was the best of us, he boomed, voice cracking just enough for pathos. Then the pivot. Unlike some who chase glory and leave wreckage, my daughter Sophia here. With her heroics, that cost good men their lives. The mic feedback squealed like a dying animal. Whispers rippled through the ranks. A few old-timers shot me sympathetic glances. But most just stared, judging. I felt it like a gut shot, the secret I'd buried for him, now twisted into my scarlet letter. That's when Lila stepped up. She tagged along with Elena, 16 now, enrolled at the Virginia Military Institute's Prep Academy. All spitshine and straight A's. Dad had molded her into his mini-me, ROTC drills at dawn, debate club takedowns on woke military policy. She was in her plebe uniform, brass gleaming. When she spotted my rack, silver star for that Syrian extract, bronze for Jake's old platoon in his memory. Her eyes flicked from the medals to Dad's flushed face, then back. The room hung in suspended breath. And she saluted. Not a half-assed wave, crisp, textbook, elbow locked, gaze unwavering. "Ma'am," she said, voice steady as a .50 cal. The mic picked it up, broadcasting her deference to every speaker in the hall. Dad's jaw unhinged. Elena froze mid-sip of Chardonnay.
Me?
I returned it slow, deliberate, letting the weight of 14 years crash down. That salute wasn't just respect. It was the first crack in Dad's fortress. The truth seeping through like smoke from a suppressed round. From there, the unraveling began. I could have walked away, re-up for another tour, let the VA therapists medicate the rage. But Jake's dog tags hung heavy around my neck, and Dad's words echoed like incoming fire. Family first. Except now, family meant payback. I started small, anonymous tips to the IG about Dad's mentorship of that lieutenant in Ukraine. Watched from afar as the investigation spiderwebbed, pulling in old Brussels expense reports, Elena's consulting fees that smelled like kickbacks. But Dad was a fox in eagle feathers, always 3 moves ahead. He lawyered up, spun it as sour grapes from a disgraced officer, leaked my old JAG file to a friendly reporter at Military Times, framed it as Whitaker legacy tainted by daughter's recklessness. The headlines hit like cluster munitions, hero or hazard. Major Sophia Whitaker's bloody ledger. Protests erupted outside the Pentagon, vets groups calling for my stripe, Gold Star moms picketing with Jake's photo. I lost my command slot, reassigned to a paper-pushing gig at the War College in Carlisle. Rage boiled into strategy. I dug deeper, hacking into family servers with a burner laptop, thanks. Ranger school buddies. Found the emails, Dad's forged sign-off on my airstrike clearance, timestamps doctored in Brussels time. And worse, Jake's ambush. That lieutenant, Dad's bastard son from an earlier affair, fast-tracked on nepotism. The route change I'd sent, buried under Dad's override to keep his boy in the glory shot. The confrontation brewed over months, a slow burn toward detonation. Lila reached out first, DM on a throwaway X account. "I know what he did to you." To Jake. "Meet me." We linked at a dive bar off I-95, her in civvies that couldn't hide the posture. Me nursing a Jack and Coke. She spilled it all. Dad's late-night rants about my betrayal, how he'd gaslight Elena into thinking I was the unstable one. "He told me you killed those kids in Afghanistan on purpose, for the promotion." Her voice cracked, but her eyes burned with that Whitaker steel. I saluted because you're the real one. Not him. Alliance forged in whiskey fumes. She fed me intel. Dad's side hustle. Consulting for private contractors, Blackwater 2.0. Funneling arms to sketchy Ukrainian oligarchs. Controversial as hell in a post-Jan 6 world, where America first meant no more forever wars. But Dad flipped the script, lobbying senators on Fox News. "We owe our allies, cut the funding." And Putin's at the border. I planned the hit meticulously. No guns or graves, just exposure. The kind that guts a man's legacy slower than shrapnel. Phase 1. Leak the airstrike docs to a whistleblower site. Timed for Jake's death anniversary. The Post ran it buried on A12. Pentagon cover-up. Colonel's forgery shields daughter in deadly strike. Dad lawyered harder. But the stink clung. Vets turned on him at reunions. His TEDx invite got yanked. He retaliated vicious, filed a restraining order, claiming I was unhinged, threatening family. Elena filed for sole custody of Lila, painting me as the ant from hell. But Lila? She lawyered up too. Emancipated at 17. testifying in family court about Dad's abuse of command. The judge, a Gulf War vet, saw through the BS, granted her independence, and froze Dad's assets pending audit. That's when the real mindfuck dropped. Dad called me to neutral ground, the National Mall at dusk, Lincoln Memorial looming like a judgmental ghost. He was gaunt, uniform hanging loose, but that smirk lingered. Sophia, you think this ends with me in the stocks? I built you, every step, every lie. That airstrike? I save your ass because you're my blood.
Jake.
That was war.
Boisty.
He paused, eyes gleaming. But here's the twist. Kid, Elena's pregnant again. Your half-sibling. And if you push this, I go nuclear. Tell the world about your little confession in Kuwait. The one where you admitted planting that dud intel to cover your ROE slip. Yeah, I have the recording. Buried deep. But it'll surface. My blood iced. The confession, bullshit I'd mumbled in a sleep-deprived haze. After a 12-hour debrief, thinking it was off record. He'd taped it, twisted it into my noose. Checkmate? Almost. But Lila had one last card. She'd swiped Dad's phone during a family therapy session. Voicemails to the lieutenant, his son, begging him to ignore the route change. Make Daddy proud. Proof Dad's hubris killed Jake. I held the phone like a grenade pin. Your move, Colonel. We stood there, cherry blossoms swirling in the wind, the mall's joggers oblivious to the war zone. I could have dropped the hammer, press send on the leak, watch his empire crumble. But the controversy gnawed. Was I avenging Jake? Or just settling scores? Dad had built the machine that made me. His sins forged my steel. And that baby on the way, innocent shrapnel in the blast radius. Lila texted, your call. Major. But family first. I deleted the files. Not mercy strategy. Let him stew in the half-light. Whispers chipping at his Teflon. Promoted to lieutenant colonel last month, I took a quiet post at SOCM, training the next gen on ethics in the gray zone. Dad retired honorably, consulting gig dried up. Elena left him for a kinder contractor. Lila? She's at VMI, top of her class, saluting me in holograms during video calls. The twist? Last week. A pink plus on a stick, my own shot at redemption. Courtesy of a ranger widower who gets the ghosts. Dad sent a card. Proud of you.
Kid.
Water under the bridge. I burned it. Bridges?
Nah.
But maybe, just maybe, in this endless war of blood and badges, we call a truce. The truce was a lie, fragile as a ceasefire in Donbass, holding just long enough for the next barrage. 2 months into my pregnancy, belly just starting to swell under my ACUs, Dad resurfaced like a bad habit. It was a humid July evening in Fayetteville, the kind where cicadas scream and air conditioners wheeze against the Carolina heat. I'd just wrapped a seminar on counterinsurgency ethics for the incoming OCS class, irony thick as the humidity, when my burner buzzed. Unknown number. But the Virginia area code screamed blood. Sophia, his voice gravelly from too many unfiltered camels. We need to talk. About the baby. I should have hung up. Blocked it like the IG report still trickling in about his retirement activities. But curiosity's a bitch. And so was he. We met at a Waffle House off Bragg Boulevard, neutral turf. Fluorescent lights buzzing like angry drones. The smell of hash browns and regret. He slid into the booth opposite me, looking every day of his 62 years, crow's feet etched deep, liver spots blooming on his knuckles.
No uniform.
Just khakis and a faded, property of USMC, polo that screamed, try hard. Congratulations, he said, sliding a stuffed bear across the table, pink, with a tiny dog tag necklace. Grandkid number 2. Elena would have loved that.
Elena.
The ghost in the machine. She'd bolted 6 weeks after the leaks hit, taking the Brussels flat and half his pension in a nasty EU divorce. Word was she'd shacked up with a Dutch diplomat, leaving Dad to rattle around his McMansion in Springfield like a loose round in a magazine. What do you want, Harlan? I asked, foregoing the dad, like I'd done since Jake's funeral. No triam en my toffia, blosk as my muet. He leaned in, that old command presence flickering. Lila's spiraling. VMI's great on paper, but she's skipping drills, popping Adderall like tic-tacs. Thinks she's you, rebel with a cause. His eyes flicked to my midsection. And you. LT. Colonel. Whitaker now. Sockham's fair-haired girl? Don't bullshit me, I know you're feeding the hounds. Those anonymous tips about my contractor deals? That's you. Stirring the pot. I sipped slow, letting the burn ground me. The contractors, his post-army gravy train, were knee-deep in gray market arms to Kurdish militias, skirting Biden's export bans. Controversial? In a Senate hearing, it'd be filibuster fodder, America arming terrorists versus saving allies from genocide. I'd tipped a journo at The Intercept. Nothing stuck yet, but the feds were sniffing. If the pot's boiling, you lit the fire, I said. Jake's dead because of your shortcuts. That airstrike? Your forgery. Own it. His laugh was a bark, drawing stares from the graveyard shift waitress. Own it,
Kid.
I owned everything for you. That recording? Still got it. One push of a button, and your fairy tale ends. Pregnant hero outed as a war criminal. ROE violator who bombed kids for a cluster. He tapped his phone on the table. Screen black but loaded. But I'm feeling generous. Retire the leaks. Back off Lila, hell. Mentor her like families should, and I bury the tape. We rebuild the Whitaker name. Legacy.
Soft.
That's what this is. Legacy. The word twisted like barbed wire in my chest. Jake's face flashed, gap-toothed at 10, helmeted at 22. The girl in Kandahar. Her name lost to redacted reports, but her eyes burned in my dreams. And now this, my own kid, kicking like it knew the sins of the father. I could have called his bluff, gone public with Lila's voicemails. But the calculus shifted. Pregnancy hormones? Or just the bone-deep fatigue of fighting shadows? One condition, I said. Full disclosure. The lieutenant, your son. Tell me his name. Why Jake died for your ego. Dad's face shuddered. But he nodded.
Ethan.
Born '09. Affair with a staffer in Baghdad. Kept it quiet, sent him to the academy on my dime. That route change? He panicked. Thought it'd look weak to deter. I told him to man up. Lead from the front. His voice cracked. Just a hair.
Wagner hitching harj.
Ethan lived, shrapnel in the leg. Purple Heart Parade.
Jake.
Collateral. Collateral. Like the girl. Like me. I stood, tossing a 20 on the table. Send the bear to Lila. And the tape, destroy it. Or I will.
Outside.
The lot shimmered under sodium lamps. My Jeep Wrangler waiting like a faithful hound. I drove to base housing. Hand on the wheel. The other cradling the swell. Sleep came fitful. Dreams of salutes and explosions. Lila called it dawn. Voice slurry from whatever she'd chased with Red Bull. Ansoff, Dad's bear? Creepy as fuck. He's guilting me into summer block leave with him. Says you're poisoning me against the family. I talked her down. Promised a weekend at my off-base rental, beach trip to Wrightsville. No brass. Just bikinis and bonfires. She showed up Friday. Duffel slung over her shoulder. Eyes shadowed but fierce. VMI's a meat grinder, she admitted over Esmores. The Atlantic crashing like applause. Cadre screaming, embrace the suck, but it's Dad's voice I hear. Whitakers don't quit. But quitting what? His lies. We bonded over the gray, her popping pills to match his relentless pace. Me confessing the pregnancy test panic. Widower Mark was solid. Ex-Delta with a cabin in the Smokies. But trust? Shattered glass. You're not him, she said, linking pinkies like Jake and I used to. That salute? It was me choosing sides.
Sides.
The word hung, heavy as humidity. Dad's offer nod, truce for legacy. But legacies are built on bones. Mine was piled high. The flip came swift, surgical. August heat wave. And Dad's contractors hit the news. ATF raid on a warehouse in Norfolk. Crates of untraceable AKs bound for who knows where. My tip? Nah, Lila's. She'd hacked his email during block leave. Forwarded manifests to a contact at crew. Dad called raging. You put her up to it? My own blood. Turning state's evidence. I denied. But the tape threat died unspoken. Feds had bigger fish. He flipped then, public mea culpa on LinkedIn. Retiring from consulting to focus on family healing. Elena responded from Amsterdam. Divorce finalized. Alimony doubled. Lila ghosted him. Crashing my couch full-time. But antagonists don't fade. They mutate. Dad pivoted to politics. Ran for county commissioner in Fairfax. Platform. Veterans first. No more weak borders. Rallies packed with MAGA vets. Him thundering about deep state cover-ups that sounded too close to my leaks. Controversial? Hell yes, opponents called it grift. Supporters hailed the hawk. I watched from afar. Mark rubbing my feet as Braxton Hicks faked labor pains. Let it go. Soft, he'd murmur. His own ghosts from Fallujah whispering in the dark. But letting go? That's surrender. The raid's fallout cracked him open. September. A subpoena landed, congressional probe into private arms flows. Dad lawyered up. But Lila testified remotely. My father used family ties to skirt laws. Endangering troops like my brother Jake. Brother. She'd claimed us. Blood or not. The hearing streamed live. C-SPAN dry as dust but viral on X. Dad's turn. My daughter, Lila's feeding lies from her aunt. A discredited officer with her own skeletons. He waved the recording, redacted. But the implication landed like a JDM. Sophia Whitaker authorized unlawful strikes. Covered by my intervention. Hero? Or hazard? The split was instant. Vicious. X lit up. Whitaker wars trending. Vets dividing, some branding me a traitor. Others Dad the enabler. Protests at VMI gates. Lila's plebe mates shunning her. Mark deployed early, Africa rotation, leaving me waddling through base with death stares. I could have countered, dropped the voicemails. But the baby kicked. Insistent. And I thought, not yet. Not into this meat grinder. Dad's play deep in the cut. He visited unannounced. Showing up at prenatal yoga with Elena's old Volvo. Packed with baby gear. Truce.
Soph.
Really this time? Inside. He unloaded. Regret monologue. Tears for Jake. Even a halting sorry for the funeral mic drop. I mocked you because
Envy.
you did what I couldn't, sacrificed without strings. Strings. The lies binding us. I let him hold the ultrasound printout, his gnarled hand trembling. Name her after your mom? Grace.
Grace.
It stuck. A thorn in the truce. Lila walked in mid-scene. Froze. Then joined, threesome unpacking onesies. Laughter brittle but real. For a week. It held. Barbecues in the backyard. Dad grilling ribs while Lila quizzed me on PSYOPs tactics. Mark called from Djibouti. Sounds healthy. Don't jinx it. But jinxes are Whitaker's specialties. The fracture hit October. Leaves turning bloody in the Appalachians. Dad's campaign surged, polls tight against a Dem incumbent, but the probe subpoenaed his Pentagon emails. Buried in the dump. My airstrike forgery.
Time-stamped in his hand.
Leaked by accident? Or his final flip? Sacrificing me to save his seat? The Post front paged it. Commissioner candidate's forgery in deadly drone strike. My phone exploded, Sock'em brass demanding explanations. Jag circling like vultures. Lila raged. He used us. Again. Dad's response. Radio silence. Then a campaign ad decrying fake news from family vendettas. I drove to Springfield that night. Storm raging like my pulse. His McMansion loomed dark. For sale sign mocking the empire. Inside. He sat in the den. Scotch in hand. TV muted on his own debate clip. You leaked it, I accused. Rain dripping from my coat. He didn't deny. Had to.
Soph.
The seat's winnable, voice for vets. Real change. Your skeleton? Acceptable losses. Losses. Jake. The girl.
Now me.
I pulled the drive, Lila's voicemails. Ethan's calls. Contractor manifests.
Play it, I said.
His face drained as Jake's last words echoed. Tell Soph. Love her. Then Ethan's. Dad. The route's compromised, Sophia's warning. Cut off by static. Your son lived. Mine didn't. Legacy. He crumpled. Glass shattering on the hearth. End it. Please. But ending? That's mercy he never showed. I walked out. Drive intact. Into the downpour. Baby Grace due in weeks. Lila bunking with VMI friends. Dad's campaign tanked. Opponent won in a landslide. He vanished, rumored to Florida. Consulting gigs in the Everglades. The birth was brutal. 20 hours. Mark Skyping from a sat bounce. Grace entered screaming. Red-faced warrior with my eyes. Lila saluted her tiny fist, whispering, Welcome to the fight. Dad sent flowers and signed. But the card read family first. I tossed them. Truce?
Nah.
But in the nursery glow, with Grace nursing and Lila plotting her commission, I wondered, is revenge the chain or the key? Grace's first cry echoed like a rally point in the delivery room chaos, nurses barking vitals, monitors beeping counterpoint to my labored breaths. Mark's voice crackled through the iPad propped on my chest. She's perfect.
Soph.
Just like her mom. LT.
Kulakshio.
Whitaker. Reduced to sweat-soaked grit in a hospital gown. Managed a thumbs up before the epidural haze pulled me under. Waking to her weight in my arms, all 7 pounds of squirming potential. I felt the old armor crack. Not shatter. Whitakers don't shatter. but fisher enough for light. Lila hovered in the corner. 18 now and home for winter break. Snapping pics with a civilian phone she bought on her own dime. Cadet Lila reporting for Aunt duty, she quipped. But her eyes were wet. No dad in the frame, his flowers wilted in the trash. The probe wrapped pre-Christmas. A quiet plea, misdemeanor falsification for dad. Community service lecturing at JROTC programs on ethical command. No jail. Brass pulling strings for the old warhorse. But his rep? Shredded like MRE foil. Ethan surfaced too. Mustered out on medical. Living in a VA halfway house in Fayetteville. He reached out via Lila. Heard the truth. Sorry for everything. Jake was solid. I met him at a Starbucks off-post. Neutral as decoff, him in a wheelchair. Prosthetic leg glinting. Me with Grace in a carrier sling. Dad played us both, he said, stirring sugar into black coffee. Push me into that slot. Then the override. Thought it'd make me worthy. The Whitaker curse, chasing a ghost, Dad's approval. We didn't hug it out, too raw. But I slipped him Jake's old dog tags. Where am? For the brother you didn't know you had. He nodded, choking on the lump. Driving back. Grace fussing against my chest. I mulled the symmetry. Bastards redeeming bastards. Dad? Radio silence held through the holidays. Lila and I hosted Mark on leave. Turkey charred but talk flowing. He proposed over pie. Ring simple as his sniper scope. White gold. Engraved through the scope. I said yes. Not for the legacy, but the future. Grace giggling at his beard tickles. Lila drilling him on Delta lore. But darkness doesn't die. It metastasizes. January thaw brought Dad crawling back. Email this time. Soph, need to see the baby. Grace. Please. Retirement's hell. Elena's gone. Lila won't answer. Family. Attached. Scanned of a psych eval. Adjustment disorder stamped official. Pity? Or ploy? I showed Mark. He grunted. Snake shed skin. Not fangs. But Grace's coos soften the edges. We met at a park in Springfield, neutral. Daylight. Me with sidearm concealed. He arrived in a rental Prius. Looking shrunken. Polo untucked. Eyes bloodshot. Grace in her stroller. Gnawing a teether. Stared at him like he was a puzzle piece jammed wrong. She's. You, he muttered.
Riching tentative.
I let him hold her. Watching hawk claws gentle on blanket soft skin. Missed this with Lila, deployed too much. Lie or truth. His stories flipped like bad intel. 1 minute the devoted dad Elena didn't deserve. Next the victim of my campaign of lies. The probe? Slap on the wrist. Thanks to my service record. But you dropping those voicemails? That was low.
Soph.
Ethan's in therapy because of it. Therapy. The word hung. Accusatory. I bit back. The girl in Kandahar had no therapist. Just a shallow grave. Grace fussed. He bounced her awkward. Humming off we go. For a heartbeat. It worked, Grandpa thawing the ice. Then the ask. Campaign's dead. But I've got a podcast gig. Hawk's Nest. Bet stories. No BS. Want you on?
Clear the air.
Legacy rebuild.
Podcast.
Controversial in vet circles, some hailed it as truth-telling. Others grift for Q-adjacent conspiracies. Mark warned. Platform for his flips. But exposure? Tempting. One condition, I said. Full truth on air. Airstrike. Jake. Ethan.
No espin.
His eyes narrowed. Calculating.
Deal.
But you first, your ROE slip. Fair's fair. The recording ghost-reared. Stalemate. Grace burped. Breaking tension. He laughed. Real this time. We parted uneasy. Him wheeling the stroller back with a promise. Next week. Studio time. The episode dropped mid-February. Valentine's snow blanketing DC. Hawk's Nest, Blood and Badges with LT.
Colació.
Sophia Whitaker. Listeners tuned in droves. 10K first week. Spiking on vet forums. Dad opened smooth. My daughter's a warrior, silver star. Sock'em star. But family's messy. We cover. We crack. Then the flip. My confession audio. Edited to sound damning. I authorized. Kids be damned. Gasps online. X erupted Sophiasons. I countered live. Voice steal. Context.
Harlan.
You forged the log. Meddled from Brussels. And Jake, your override killed him. He interrupted. Charm offensive. War's gray. I protected her. Like any dad. Listeners split. Hero dad shielding daughter versus enabler who sacrificed a son. Ratings soared. But so did the backlash. My command pulled me for a reputational review. Grace's daycare got crank calls. Lila raged from VMI. I told you, he's a chameleon. Mark. Back from rotation. Loaded the .45. Distance. Soft. He's poison. But the poison seeped. Dad's pod ballooned. Guests like disgruntled jags. Airing my recklessness. Controversial gold. Debates on ROE and asymmetric wars. Was Sophia right to strike? Forums polarized, feminist vets cheering my grit. Tradcons decrying woke collateral. I fought back on my own channel. Echoes from the line. Raw takes on command ethics. Jake's story unvarnished. Subscribers climbed, but sleep fled. Grace's cries mirrored my doubts. The twist brewed in March. Cherry blossoms mocking the rot. Ethan called. Dad's pitching a book. Forged in fire. A Whitaker redemption. Your story. Twisted as the prodigal screw-up he saved. Proof? Draft chapters. Emailed anonymous. Me as the villain. Airstrike my ambition's price. Jake's death. Tragic, but unrelated. Rage ignited. I confronted at his Springfield rental. Now, a sad Airbnb. This? Your legacy? Pages scattered like spent casings. He shrugged. Scotch neat. Truth sells. Soft. Yours or mine. Pick a narrative. Narrative. The word chilled. We'd become stories. Not flesh. Ethan's clean now, therapy working. Lila's acing plebier. Even reached out to Elena, forgiveness tour. Flip again. Victim to visionary. I pocketed the drive. Full manuscript. His digital noose. Last chance. Pull it, or I do. He laughed.
Bitter. Do it.
But remember, you bore the blame once.
For me.
Cycle. Kid. Cycle. The betrayal looped. Deep as DNA. Driving back. Grace asleep in the rear facing. I weighed. Expose.
Destroy?
Or absorb. Endure? Mark waited with steak and silence. Your call. But Grace needs a mom. Not a martyr. Lila decided for us. April Fools, ironic. She leaked the manuscript to Military Times. Hawk's hypocrisy. Candidates ghost-ridden lies. Fallout nuclear. Pod sponsors bailed. Book deal vaporized. Dad flipped final. Presser tearful. Family strife-fueled fiction, I take blame. But whispers. He'd fed Lila the file. Staging his rock bottom for sympathy arc. Believable? In Whitaker world.
Yes.
Probe reopened. Tax evasion on pod merch. Elena testified from afar. He forged my signatures too, debts hidden. I visited him in holding glass partition like a bad movie.
Gaunt.
Orange jumpsuit clashing his tan. But eyes? Calculating. You win.
Soft.
Grace, tell her grandpa's sorry.
Sorry.
Too late for salutes. Write your book, he added. The real one. Release came May. Plea bargain. House arrest. Restitution. He vanished to a trailer in the Keys. Podcast defunct. Grace's first ups? On video to him. Her wobble drawing a ghost smile. Lila commissioned summer. Saluting at grad, me pinning her bars. Mark toasting. But the controversy lingered. Threads debating who betrayed who? No heroes. Just survivors. Grace babbled data first for Mark, but I wondered, cycle broken?
Or paused.
Word count. 1002. File 4. Summer in Fayetteville baked the asphalt into tar waves. Mirages dancing off Humvee hoods like desert flashbacks. Grace toddled now. 9 months of chubby determination, pulling up on furniture with fists like tiny parachutes. Mark's rotation extended, Somalia advisory. Just 6 more, leaving me juggling sockum briefs and bedtime stories. Lila bunked in. Cadet leave turning to full-time nanny gig. VMI deferred her plebe year for family extenuating. We made a unit. Me drilling tactics over Cheerios. Her quizzing Grace on colors, green like go time. Laughs filled the rental. But shadows crept. Dad's trailer address leaked in a vet group chat. Invites to reconciliation barbecues. I ignored them. Focused on the book. Shades of command, a daughter's reckoning. My truth. Unfiltered. Agent scooped it off a cold query. Raw as Caputo. Tense as Hannah. Deadline loomed. Pages bleeding confessions, the airstrike's roar. Jake's helmet cam static. Dad's sat phone please. Controversial? Beta readers split. Empowering female vet voice versus self-pitying blame game. Where's the accountability?
Fair.
I owned the ROE Gray. The split-second call that birthed ghosts. But Dad's forgery? His noose. The call came mid-July. Landline shrill over AC hum. Ethan, Soph, it's bad.
Dad's.
Spiraling. Booze. Pills. Talking suicide to the neighbor. Neighbor, a retired master sergeant. Mutual from Bragg days. My gut nodded. Grace sensed. Fussing in her playpen. Address? I barked. Already packing. Lila protested. Don't. He's the spider. But blood's thick. Betrayal or not. Mark texted from Mogadishu. Go if you must. But armed and call me after. The Keys were a fever dream. Conch shells crunching under tires. Humidity thick as regret. Dad's trailer squatted in a trailer park off US 1, rust-streaked Airstream. American flag limp on a PVC pole. I knocked. Sidearm holstered under linen shirt. Grace on hip like a shield. He answered shirtless. Beer gut spilling over cut-off jeans. Eyes red-rimmed but sharp. Sophia. And the air. He scooped Grace gentle. Cooing nonsense that drew her giggles. Inside, chaos of takeout boxes. Dog-eared Tom Clancy's. A half-empty fifth on the Formica counter. We sat. AC rattling like distant Artie. Ethan ratted, he asked. No heat. I nodded.
Said you're
Done. He poured 2 fingers, mine water. His amber.
done? Nah.
Just recalibrating. House arrest ends next month. Got a gig bartending at a vet dive. Hawk's poorhouse, my spin.
Spin.
Always. Grace crawled the linoleum, investigating a faded unit patch. Book coming out, he pressed. Heard rumors. Make me the devil. Truth's grayer, I said. Your flips. My falls. Jake's the constant. His face shuddered. He swigged deep. Miss him. Every dawn PT. See his face in the mist. And you, proud.
Soft. LT.
Colonel. Book deal. Family.
I.
Envy that.
Envy.
The confession hung. Vulnerable as exposed flank. Then the flip. But don't sane yourself. That strike? You pulled the trigger, metaphorically. Kids died on your watch.
Watch.
The word ignited. Your forgery greenlit it. And Jake, your ego's route. Voices rose, Grace whimpered. He softened, scooping her. War eats the weak. I made you strong, took the heat?
No.
You did.
For me.
Noble. Kid. Noble. Twisted mirror.
We talked hours, raw.
Unscripted. His Baghdad affair birthing Ethan. Elena's manipulations. The pod as desperate grab for relevance. Thought redemption was a script. Yours worked, Lila worships you. Lila. She's yours too. Call her. He did. Speakerphone. Her voice wary. Thawing to plans, a Keys visit.
Nostrines.
Hanging up. He turned. Truce. Real this time? Help an old bird fly straight? I searched his eyes, cunning or crumble. Grace yawned. Decision made. One flip. Harlan. And it's scorched earth. The visit stretched a week of tentative thaw. Mornings. Dad pushing Grace's stroller on beach paths. Me jogging flank. Sidearm light. Afternoons. Vet bar stories. Him pouring drafts while I nursed a soda. Locals nodding respect for the author. Evenings. Bonfires. S. Moraes charring as we unpacked skeletons, his first kill in Nam. My Kandahar screams. Cycle breaks with Grace, he said one night. Embers glowing. No more deaths. Hope flickered. Fragile as firefly. Back home. Book edits flew. Lila integrated. Ethan visited. Wheelchair races with Grace shrieking delight. Mark returned September. Ring exchanged in a courthouse quickie. Us in jeans. Witnesses vets from his unit. Mrs. Whitaker Tucker, he grinned. But I kept Sophia. Hyphen legacy. Dad's straight shot held. Bartending steady. NA meetings twice weekly. He Skyped Grace's first words. Gampa. Slurred but beaming. Book pubbed October. Launch added DC Indy. Standing room. Vets queuing for signs. Dad showed. Khakis crisp. First edition clutched. Proud, he whispered post-reading. Hug awkward but real. Reviews poured. Gripping. Unflinching. Sparks debate on command culpability. Controversial win. Senate subcommittees cited it in ROE reforms. Ex-wars raged. But sales hit NYT list. The twist dropped November. Election eve, irony sharp. Anonymous packet. My door. No postmark. Inside. Dad's will. Notarized fresh. Assets to Grace. My redemption's dawn. And a USB. The full recording. My confession. Unedited. Context clear, sleep talk. Off record. His voice prompting. Say it. Soft for the family. Proof of manipulation. Note. Knew you'd need this. Burn the rest.
Love.
Hawk.
Love.
The word gutted. He'd flipped final, not to save himself.
But me.
Planted the packet pre-spiral. Insurance against his demons. I called. Voicemail. Keys number disconnected. Trailer Park Super. Hawk? Checked out last week, said Florida called. Florida. Vague as vapor trail. Search started frantic. NCIC pings. Vet networks. Even Ethan's AA contacts. Nothing. Lila hacked flight manifests ghost. Mark's Delta ghosts mobilized. Quiet queries. Sat imagery. Trail cold by Thanksgiving. Grace smashing turkey. Us toasting to cycles. But doubt nod. Suicide cover? Or rebirth? New alias for fresh grift? Christmas brought the postcard. Everglades postmark. No return. Photo. Alligator sunning. Caption. Snakes shed. Eagles soar. Watch Grace fly.
Ash.
Attached. Silver Star citation. His old one, Nom Valor. Faded but fierce. He'd pawned it, or gifted forward. Debate rages in quiet moments. Heroes exit. Or cowards dodge. No bodies, no closure. Podcast rumors swirl. Hawks alive. Scripting from shadows. Lila votes escape. Ethan. Atonement. Mark. Doesn't matter. You won. Grace babbles fly. Pointing skies. Me? I wear his star on dress blues. Grace is crib-side. Revenge? Delivered, in truths told. Cycles snapped. But the hook lingers. Mocked publicly. Saluted secretly. Was Dad monster? Mentor? Or mirror? Readers argue in reviews. We Whitakers? We endure. Polarized as the dawn he chased. Legacy? Not in medals or mocks, but in the flight we choose. Grace's wings. Unfolding. Epilogue whispers. Last spring. Anonymous donation. Full ride for Lila's masters. PSYOPs track. Sender. Family first. I smile. Burn the note. Eagles soar alone. But sometimes, in the updraft, we glide together.